welcome you to this workshop. I'm Stuart McKenna, the Chief Executive of STF, and I'll be your host for the next just under an hour or so. It is a workshop, so it is interactive. We do want to hear your feedback and your comments. So we've got the chat box. Please feel free at any point to put comments into the chat box and we'll pick up on those. We've got 3 speakers for you. I'll introduce each of those as we go along, and we'll just pause for some questions after each of the speakers in case there's something you want to ask, and then we'll scoop everything up towards the end. So the first speaker we have then is Nicola Smith, and Nicola is a development officer with the SCQF partnership, and Nicola's role is to provide support to employers, encouraging the understanding and use of the SCQF in recruitment and retention, and providing support on how to appropriately level job descriptions. And Nicola is also responsible for developing new opportunities and partnerships in this area, and she also supports the SCQFP forum. So Nicola, can I invite you to come in?
Certainly, thank you very much, Stuart. I will just share my screen, and there we go. It's being very slow today. There we go. Can everybody see that okay?
Yep, that's good.
Fantastic, thank you. So as Stuart said, I am the employer support lead at the SCQF partnership, and it is my role to support employers to understand the SCQF. What is it? Where did it come from? Why was it created? Why is it important to understand for them as employers? And that boils down to a few different things. It boils down to helping them understand the range of alternative qualifications that are out there on the SCQF. It's not just qualifications that are taken in those traditional settings of schools, colleges and universities, but we have a wealth of different qualifications that are taken through workplaces, that are taken in the community, a whole range of different things, as you've seen today in some of the things that we've had being highlighted. So I help them understand all the different qualifications that are out there, so that if people are coming in to them with those alternative qualifications, that they will understand what they are. And also to help them show to those potential employees that we are open to seeing these qualifications, that we're open to those alternatives, and they will understand them. The other thing is, there may be people out there, and there are many, who have a wealth of skills and experience, but they don't necessarily have the qualifications to back those up. So I help employers understand, what does someone's skills and experience look like at a particular SCQF level? How can you recognise that in people who are applying for your roles? And how, again, do you show those people that you're open to the skills and experience and not just expecting specific qualifications? I can also help with making sure that employers are levelling their job roles correctly, they're getting the right level of people doing those roles, and if there's in-house training that they want accredited and put on the SCQF, then I can help them with that. All of these together help provide a much wider, more inclusive form of recruitment. It means you're casting your net wider, you're letting people see that you are open to the wealth of skills, experience and different qualifications that people might be coming to you with. It also helps with employee retention. If you're employing people at the correct level, people aren't sitting doing jobs that are a lower level than they're capable of doing, then they will stay with you longer. If you are recognising and supporting their personal development with credit rated training, then they will stay with you longer. So very, very important things to consider. So the first part of that, understanding qualifications. I run one-to-ones with employers, and if anyone out there knows of employers, or you may be an employer and you want to find out more about this, please feel free to get in touch. I'll put my email address back up at the end, and I'll be happy to set up a one-to-one to explain this with you in more depth. But in understanding qualifications, what I do is I take employers through, first of all, looking at the SCQF, what actually is it, our framework diagram. And I describe the fact that we have a set of level descriptors that covers each level that describes exactly what a learner must be able to do in order to gain a qualification at that level. So they can be assured that if someone's sitting with a higher at level 6, or they understand what a higher at level 6 means, if somebody comes to them with an alternative qualification at SCQF level 6, then the learning that took place in that qualification is of the same level, is of the same standard of difficulty. So that might be things happening in schools, colleges, universities, it may be in the workplace, it may be skills-based, one of the more vocational qualifications, modern apprenticeship at SCQF level 6, it's the same difficulty of learning as a higher, and that goes for each of the different levels. But of course, it's not just the learning happening in the traditional settings. We have learning happening all over the country in a range of different places, and that is one of the beauties and one of the unique features of the SCQF, is that we are able to accredit learning happening in a range of different settings. And this is just a small snapshot of some of those different programs that we currently have available in the SCQF. Last time I looked, we had 11,700 exactly qualifications sitting on the SCQF. So there's a vast range of different types of things that can be taken. And it's really important to employers to understand how those equate to each other. Another thing that I do is I help employers understand those traditional qualifications and how they looked as we go back in time. We have some job adverts out there that are still asking for O grades, and while there are still people like me who are sitting with a range of O grades, there have been many other qualifications that have taken their place in the traditional setting as well. So it's really important they understand the full range in order to be attracting the full range of people to apply for their roles. I also help employers understand the range of different qualifications that there are from people coming from other parts of the UK, Republic of Ireland, and how we also equate to things like the European Qualification Framework and to other frameworks worldwide. So this is our Qualifications Can Cross Boundaries leaflet. All of these things are available on our website, and it lets you see how the SCQF equates to, this is the framework that covers the Republic of Ireland. And these are the main frameworks that cover England, Wales and Northern Ireland, where it's not all within the one. But that helps you see how, for example, if you have someone coming in from the Republic of Ireland with a level 5 certificate, that is comparable to a higher in its level of difficulty. And lastly, in talking about qualifications, we have a database on our website, which is freely available to anybody, and it can be very useful for employers to be able to, for example, look up courses that they may want their employees to take. So if they've identified a development need, they can come on here and see what courses may be available. Also, if somebody applies with a qualification that they're not too familiar with, they can come and pop it in here. If you tick this box, you get archived things as well. The database has been around now for 6 or 7 years. So if it's been taken in that time and it's been in Scotland and it's on the SCQF, you will be able to find it in here. So that covers the range of alternative qualifications that are out there very, very quickly. But I also mentioned that it's really important for employers to understand experience and skills that people may be coming to them with. There are a lot of people out there, particularly at the moment, who are looking to change sector. They have a wealth of those meta skills that we've been talking about, the transferable skills that are really, really valuable. But how do they show an employer if they don't have a qualification to back that up? So this publication here, we call our Employer's Guide, and it helps you to understand how you can use SCQF levels in your recruitment, how you can use them in workforce development, and also how you can use the SCQF to level your job roles properly. And it uses this publication here, which is an extremely useful publication. Just like we have level descriptors that cover what a learner must be able to do for each level, this has been created to help employers understand what an employee would look like if they're working at that level. So for example, very often we'll find in job adverts that people are looking for a degree or equivalent. very often they have no idea what that equivalent actually means. This can help you understand what that means. So we've talked about what it means in terms of qualifications, but this is what it means in terms of skills. So an ordinary degree sits at SCQF level 9, and this is a page from our employer levelling tool, which tells you, it describes what an employee would look like working at that level. So just like the level descriptors, not all of the areas will be as relevant as others for your particular job role. But have a look at, the first thing I suggest is having a look at the competencies. Think about which ones are the most important for that job role that you're thinking about and concentrate on those. And the first thing to do is decide, does that describe the person that I need for this job role? If you think, well, actually, maybe that might be a bit too high, maybe we're not needing somebody quite at such a high level, you can go down, flip over the page, oops, sorry, went the wrong way, flip over the page and have a look at description for level 8. So it might be that that actually describes your job role better. And that's an instant win, because you're now widening out your pool to people who may be qualified with HNDs, with an SVQs or apprenticeships at SCQF level 8, or a range of other qualifications that we've talked about. But it also opens you up to skills and experience at that level. So I'm doing a range of work with, there's a lot going on. We've already spoken to Breda this morning, who works with Skills Recognition Scotland, working with migrant workers, helping them to understand their skills, experience and qualifications in relation to SCQF levels, so they can go into jobs which are right for them. I'm also working with the Ministry of Defence, helping veterans and service leavers understand, again, their skills and experience in terms of SCQF levels. So it's really, really important. What we're really trying to do is change the language around recruitment. SCQF is very well known within education circles, but it's not so well known at the moment in the world of recruitment and by employers. And because of the changes that have happened over the last 10, 15, 20 years, it's now really important that employers can gain that understanding. And we're trying to encourage them to start thinking of skills, experience and qualifications in terms of SCQF levels. So when it comes to recruitment, what we are trying to do is encourage, instead of using specific qualifications, the old chestnut of degree or equivalent, we are suggesting that maybe for that job role we just looked at, we decided it would suit SCQF level 8. You could say something along the lines of, you'll be educated to SCQF level 8 or have relevant experience, skills and experience in. And that opens up to a range of different qualifications and also to relevant skills and experience. On our website, we also have web pages where you can, if you click on the link, it will take you through to a page that from the level descriptors, just as I showed you, that lets you see what that actually means. So it helps change your applicant's understanding as well, and helps them understand themselves in terms of SCQF levels. So in order to try and move things on, we have created a recognition scheme. Aileen mentioned it this morning in her opening address. It came to being in 2019, and we had a range of employers come on board, but then things very much stalled when the pandemic started. Our work in schools very much took off, but it was the same person who was trying to work in schools and with employers, and that wasn't possible. And unfortunately, at the time, they were not able to employ another person just because of the situation at the time. So I came on board about 9 months ago, and I've taken up the mantle of trying to build the traction again. And I'm very happy to say that we have, as you can see from this range of different logos, we have a range of inclusive recruiters, and you're going to hear from 2 of them very soon to find out why they became inclusive recruiters. But before we do, an inclusive recruiter, it's really the start of a relationship. It's a pledge being made on behalf of an organisation that from now on, instead of using specific qualifications in their job advertisements, they will use SCQF levels and show that they are open to understanding what we've just spoken about, the alternative qualifications and the alternative skills and experience that equate to that level. So it's very much the beginning of a relationship. I'm looking to increase the range of different things that we do for employers to really help fully embed the understanding of the SCQF, not just within HR, but within the wider organisation as well. So all of the information that I've spoken about is all available in our website under support for employers, and this is the section here. If anybody wants to get in touch, I'd be very happy to hear from you. And if you know of anyone who might like to become an inclusive recruiter, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you very much.
So that's a real tongue twister. So what your challenge now is to say 3 times in a row, inclusive recruiter. Go.
Inclusive recruiter, inclusive recruiter, inclusive recruiter. I've had a lot of practice, Stuart.
Yeah, I'm going to sing that because I stumbled on it at the workshop this morning. So I was hoping you might make me feel better. Okay,
sorry.
Do we have any questions or comments for Nicola? And while folks are thinking about that, let me ask you a couple then, Nicola. So one of the other programs that you have there was Comedy and Confidence from Direct Debit. I don't expect you to know everything about all of them, but that's quite a well-known one. So we've got a qualification on delivering comedy, is it?
Absolutely. That particular one I do know a little bit about, thankfully, because there are 11,700. So I'm glad you chose one that I do actually know a little bit about. I can't say exactly for sure, but it's run by someone who struggled in mainstream education. Because at that point, our school ambassadors weren't out there doing their amazing jobs. Things were very geared towards the traditional hires, etc. She struggled with that, and when she left school, decided that she wanted to then do something to increase the confidence of young people and to provide a different route into a variety of different step on the learning pathway. So it's definitely one to look into. I don't know a huge amount about it, but
that's okay. Well, I mean, I should say I have a vested interest. We had the lady whose name, I think it's Anna Devitt's her name. We had her at the STF conference once. She was she is a comedian, a wee bit near the bone, so we were a wee bit nervous beforehand that she might say something that might upset people, but fortunately she didn't. Okay, so 11,700. I suppose the reason I kind of picked on that one is it just shows the range. There's a lot of mainstream stuff, but also some kind of niche stuff there. So I wanted to ask you about how easy it is for small employers to get involved in using the tools from SCQF, because I'm guessing a lot of small employers will think it's a good idea. I do want to extend the pool of folk that I recruit, but actually I don't have time to start poking about on SCQF's website. So how easy is it?
It's very, very simple. So if you go on the website, you'll see on our Understanding Qualifications page, you can click through to arrange a one-to-one with myself, and I will sit down with you and we'll half an hour, 45 minutes, we'll discuss the SCQF, the things that I've just shown you, but also related to the work that your particular organisation are doing.
Right, and so really, you'll actually do that with me. I'm just a wee kind of ordinary small, medium-sized business, and so you'll actually sit down with anybody? Absolutely, I will sit down with anyone for any size of organisation, not a problem at all. We have inclusive recruiters who are very large, for example ScotRail, who you're about to hear from, but we also have inclusive recruiters who have 3 or 4 employees. So if we're going to change hearts and minds in the language, then we need to be being inclusive and practicing what we preach. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's terrific. If you're opening that up to absolutely anyone that's interested, that's the thing that's going to make the difference, because employers do need to be led by the hand sometimes for these things. Okay, so you mentioned O grades, which I've never heard of personally, so I guess you must be a wee bit older than me. You said cheekily. Are employers getting any better at asking for SCQF levels on their job adverts now, as opposed to the old qualifications and the degrees? Are they getting better? Can you see a trend? I'm starting to see a difference. I
keep a permanent, I have job emails coming into me every week. I have a search on for the words, well, the letters SCQF, and I'm starting to see greater numbers now. So we have been monitoring this over the last couple of years, and we're starting to see things taking off. The numbers are increasing. So it's a very big ship to change direction of, but we will get there.
Yeah, well, I like your style. You say you want to change, what was it? Change the language around recruitment. So good. I got to aim for the stars. And I see Shona in the chat has obviously had a one-to-one with you and found it very valuable. So she's singing your praises there. Okay, I don't see any comments or questions, but let me just pause slightly. Does anyone have anything they want to, questions or feedback to Nicola at this stage, if you want to come on camera or put something into the chat box? No, are we okay? Oh yes, oh Breda. Okay, hello Breda, if you want to come in.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in on what Nicola was saying there. I'm from Skills Recognition Scotland, and I just wanted to talk about how much SCQF has really helped us to develop the infrastructure that we have developed in conjunction with them. So basically we're funded by Scottish Government to develop a national process that would enable employers to understand the international transferability of skills. And we looked at different frameworks of how we could do that. But essentially what we decided was that we already had the framework in Scotland, the SCQF levelling tool. And it's basically what it does is it enables people to deconstruct their skills against that framework. And I just want to say how useful it's been to develop our process with SCQF. And we're hoping, we're in the stage now of testing it with employers, and the participants that have gone through the process have got a lot from it, and we're now at the stage of testing it with employers, so hopefully that they will then be able to understand international skills in relation to their skill shortages. So I just want to say thanks to SCQF and Nicola. It'll be interesting working with you to take this work forward.
Absolutely, anytime.
It's just a good example of the practical application of the framework, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Nicola.
Absolutely.
That's great. Thank you, Breda, and big thumbs up for you there, Nicola. Okay, I don't see anything from anyone else, so let me move on to our next speaker here. I can get very excited about because he's going to be talking about trains, well, to a certain extent. Let me introduce Neil Archibald. Neil has over 20 years experience across public services and the public sector in Scotland. Neil is currently the head of strategic workforce planning for ScotRail. Neil is focused on delivering a long-term workforce plan across all grades and an ambitious approach to early careers and workforce development. In the past, Neil has worked with the Scottish Environment Protection Agency and also a couple of years with Scottish Enterprise. I don't know if you want to take me up on the challenge to say 3 times in a row inclusive recruiter, Neil?
Absolutely not, Stuart. No, I've especially the session's been recorded, so that'll come back and haunt me, I think. Thank you for that. I presume you can see the slides okay.
Yeah, spot on.
Afternoon, folks. I'm going to chat to you a wee bit briefly about ScotRail, our plans to develop the workforce of the future, and indeed why we became an inclusive recruiter. Just to take us at the start, I'll give you a wee bit more about ScotRail. So pre-pandemic, every year we would deliver around 100 million passenger journeys, and we're slowly seeing people returning to Scotland's railway now, although the balance is changing from your daily commute to more leisure and weekend travel. We deliver over 2,000 intercity, regional and suburban rail services every day, with more than 350 stations and 800 trains serving Scotland's railway. We're the 5th largest employer in the country, and we're now in our 3rd year as being recognised as a top employer. We're also about a week away from rejoining Scotland's public sector on the 1st of April. So to consider where we want to be in the future, we very much need to understand where we are now. So there's a lot of data on this slide, but to summarise, over 40% of our workforce is over the age of 50. Only 22% of that workforce is female. Significant number of people are therefore forecast to hit the retirement age in the next 5 to 10 years, and that brings the risk of a considerable loss of resource, expertise and knowledge. We need to address that in the short term to ensure the impact on the business is minimal and ScotRail is prepared for it. We have a general lack of diversity in the current workforce. I think our ethnic minority stats are less than 1%. Quite a small percentage of young people, as well as that age profile I spoke about earlier on. We made some progress in recent years. Much is still to be done to address it. We don't struggle to recruit as a company, but what we do struggle to attract is a diversity of candidate. So we need to consider how we engage differently and attract that broader candidate base. And we certainly feel as a national employer, we've got a certain set of responsibilities that we need to deliver. And we're trying to up our approach in early careers as well. Here's some of the actions that we've taken in the last couple of years. If there's been any kind of benefit from COVID and lockdown, it's that ability to stop, step back and think slightly differently about how we've been doing things. So we've been focusing on our talent acquisition and management approach, trying to understand what candidates are looking for from employers and how best to position ourselves in what is still a competitive job market. We're trying to position ScotRail as a socially inclusive employer of choice across Scotland, whilst positively promoting the industry and looking strategically at the kind of employer we want to be. We're trying to contribute to Scottish Government priorities, assist in the response to COVID-19's economic and social challenges, and also create an engaging early careers experience that helps us attract, recruit and retain the next generation of talent. We've been looking at critical role and critical individual analysis, focus on succession planning, and that ambitious approach to talent acquisition, which is an expression of our values to be customer-driven, encouraging, collaborative, honest and bold. And over the last 2 years, very much had a big focus on diversity and inclusion. We made a very public commitment to embed D&I and make it business as usual, really trying to communicate the type of company that we want to be. The diversity in our candidates is evident. We're tracking it from end-to-end recruitment process, right from the point of application through to onboarding, and equally using some of the stats that tell us where particular groups or genders or ages fall out of the process and why. We're creating more structural and organisational change within the company that leads to more opportunities for things like modern apprenticeships. And we've targeted and secured several high-profile accreditations in the last couple of years, using that to help us attract more diversity and show the commitment to existing colleagues, as well as challenge our people, approaches and practices. Things like investors and diversity and top employers are two fairly high-profile ones of those. And we've revamped our approach to recruitment. So taking that approach, the policy, the process, the paperwork, move it from a very 1990s way of thinking, and that's been generous, to something that's more accessible, more inclusive, and move from that old language and approach and embedding full blind recruitment across all internal and external recruitment. We've got the business looking and thinking longer term. The next natural step for us was signing up to the Inclusive Recruiter. It's helped us rethink the way we've described and marketed job opportunities, particularly the skills and competency that's required for a particular role, and in turn helped us to broaden the pool of potential candidates for roles. First of all, it was about awareness raising within the business. Firstly, within our recruitment team, our HR directorate, and then more widely. Could quite easily have been a challenge. I've said earlier, we don't struggle to recruit, so why would you bother trying to change it? It's easy to sell the benefits of this approach though, and it's pretty clear we have evidence that it's made a difference. So I spoke earlier on this morning about an example where I posted a job on LinkedIn. One of my network tagged somebody else in the chat, and the person said, looks great, can't apply for it, don't have a university degree. And I chipped in and said, look more closely at the advert. That person was then successful in getting a role within ScotRail. So it shows that these kind of things do make a difference. We have much more to do though, and there is much more work to do with the SCQF over the next couple of years. As you'd expect, this kind of thing brings challenges. As a culture, it's often described as traditional, I would say old, and often historic ways of considering solutions. So it's trying to raise awareness across the business of the full range of approaches that could be used, not always looking for what we've always had, and that yes but syndrome. So people can be really supportive of what you're trying to do at a high level, saying the right things in the right forums, but didn't see the relevance for their immediate team. And there was possibly a view that actually by removing things like degree qualifications or any of these sorts of things, you're actually devaluing the job role. So we had to sit and support managers and teams to understand more about it, to walk through some examples and to reinforce the benefits of moving to this kind of approach. And we've also historically had quite a reactive approach to recruitment, driven very much by vacancy. It was the opportunity to sit back, take a more longer term look and build in time to revise the approach, the policy and the working practice to support all of that. In terms of what next, it's pushing the inclusive recruiter model further, as far as we can as a company. We're trying to develop school, college and university engagement and look to the future, committing resources to early careers, to education, to employability and wider D&I activity, not just being the job of a small number of HR folk. Championing the cause, not just within the company, but across Scotland's railway and more broadly in the transport sector in Scotland. Embedding succession planning, looking longer term, that 5 to 10 year view. We're trying to push and promote the industry and get the development of a sectoral approach. We're talking to Scottish Government colleagues about that. So taking a transport approach to employability and develop and deliver specific campaigns and interventions to ensure that by 2035, we have a workforce that is reflective of Scottish society. An inclusive recruiter is a critical part of success in achieving those aims. That's me, Stuart. I'm quite happy to take questions. That's my contact details there. If anybody wants to have a chat offline away from this about the difference that inclusive recruiter has made for us, I'd be more than happy to do it.
That's great. Okay, thank you very much. Neil, as I said to you this morning, I did want to be a train driver when I was younger. Probably just too late now. Mind you, it's never too late, is it?
Never too late.
What's the age of your oldest train driver?
72, Stuart.
Okay, I've got quite a bit of scope there then. Okay, that's quite reassuring.
Yes.
Do we? I'm impressed that you actually knew that. Did you just make that up, or do you? How do you know that?
No, so part of my role, that longer term workforce planning piece, we've actually gone down into a lot of fine detail about particular roles in the company. Now, what folk probably don't appreciate is the lead time to train a driver is anything between 12 and 18 months, depending on where they are in the country. So we have to take a longer term look. And I'm aware of pretty much most of the demographics of our train driving grade. We've got 1,300 drivers, and I know that one sticks out as a stat I'll always remember. So,
right, that's with apprenticeships. I used to have these kind of figures to hand, and I remember what's the oldest apprentice, and this is going back years. It was a scaffolder who I think was 75, which kind of defies logic somehow. But there we go. So 72, great.
Yes.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments then for Neil at this point? And while folks are thinking, Neil, could I maybe ask how you first came across the SCQF recruitive? How did you become aware of it initially?
I suppose quite a fortunate position. Margaret and my team, who's been involved in broader workforce and vocational development for a long time, was a very passionate supporter of SCQF and City and Guilds and the SQA work. So when I came into the business, which is just coming up on 4 years, we decided to try and follow it up, not as an organisation heavily invested in the resources to take these kind of things forward in the past, but there was a passionate supporter within the business for that kind of thing. So it took us a wee while just to get all the ducks lined up before we committed to it. But yeah, I was in a very fortunate position that I've got someone in my team who's incredibly knowledgeable about this stuff. Same with the STF, Stuart, you probably know Margaret. She's been around for quite a while and a very big supporter of this and very passionate about it.
I'm not sure she would appreciate you saying she's been around for quite a while, Neil, but I think I know what you meant. But,
yes, I was trying to be respectful. I could have named the actual number of years, Stuart, but I wasn't going down there. She was on the session this morning. She's not now.
She's not here. Phew,
No.
But it's recorded, Neil. She might watch the recording. Anyway. Okay, do we have any comments or any questions for Train Mad Neil? Well, I'm the one that's mad, actually. I'm Train Mad. No, I think you're off. Okay, well, there'll be opportunity at the end if there's anything else for Neil. So in that case, let's move on to our third and final speaker then. We've got Shona Man, and Shona is the Talent, Fair Work and Equality Programme Lead at the South of Scotland Enterprise. Her career has focused mainly on talent attraction, career development and assessment. She's focused on creating an inclusive, supportive and collaborative culture within South of Scotland Enterprise, and that begins by ensuring that the organisation attracts and retains the very best, most diverse talent possible. Do you want to try the recruitment inclusive thing 3 times?
No,
No,
but that's a really kind offer. Thank you.
Over to you. Over to you.
I struggled with it earlier as well. First of all, has my screen share worked?
It has. Yep, we can see it. Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, so that's always a good start. Well, thank you very much for that kind introduction, Stuart. Thanks, and thanks also for inviting me along today to be part of this workshop. My name is Shona Man, and I'm the Talent, Fair Work and Equality Lead here at South Scotland Enterprise. And I'm here today to talk to you about our experience of talent attraction and some of the inclusive practices that we have adopted as an organisation. So firstly, I thought it would be a good idea to give you a bit of background into us as an organisation and why it is that we're here. So South of Scotland Enterprise, or SOCE as we call it, is the newest kid on the block in terms of the enterprise agencies. Our focus is solely on the south of Scotland, so that's the Scottish borders and Dumfries and Galloway. And we were launched in April 2020 to help drive inclusive growth, increase competitiveness and tackle inequality across the region. So why does the South of Scotland need its own enterprise agency? Well, back in 2016, the Scottish Government recognised that the South of Scotland had been largely overlooked and forgotten, but that as a region it has enormous potential. With lots of natural advantages like land and water assets, as well as energy resources and an entrepreneurial culture, which makes the region attractive for residents, businesses and visitors alike. But despite all of that, we have significant challenges as a region, and that's what we as an organisation are here to address. We need to establish the South of Scotland as a centre of opportunity, innovation and growth. And it's our mission to work with the people, businesses and communities right across the South of Scotland to grow our economy by providing investment, expertise and mentoring. And we plan to inspire the region to think bigger so that together we can unlock the significant opportunities for everyone. We need to do this together so that we can harness all of the natural resources in a safe and sustainable manner. We need to provide more opportunities for skills development and careers for our young people so that they don't leave the region and not return home. And so we can talent elsewhere. We need to have ways of supporting our communities and our economy by attracting sustainable investment from the rest of the UK and abroad. And we need to do all of that while promoting a wellbeing economy that gives everyone an equal opportunity to make the most of their lives and their talents, treating people differently and in accordance with their needs, as well as promoting fair work and supporting the just transition to net zero. And of course, we can't do any of that without the right people. So we're here today to talk about the opportunities which being an inclusive recruiter presents. And as you'll see from this slide, inclusivity is part of SOCI's DNA. It's one of our organisational values, and it's these values which underpin absolutely everything that we do, and that includes our talent attraction strategy. Like every organisation other than ScotRail, we've experienced loads of challenges when it comes to attracting the right people at the right time, and there are some areas of specialism which are much more difficult than others. Here we have some of the main challenges that we've come up against. First of all, we have salary. In terms of hard cash, sometimes we just can't compete with some of the big corporates. We're based across the south of Scotland, so there are cities with enormous diverse talent pools that are within our reach. And we're new, so we haven't yet established our reputation. And there are lots of people out there who just don't like the idea of joining the unknown. And sometimes the external perception of who we are and what we're here to do can just be incorrect. We've grown really, really quickly. We've gone from having no one when we started 2 years ago to 135 employees, and that has happened in just less than a 2-year period. So at times it has been really hard to keep up with internal demands. And in the short period of time that we've been established, we've seen a fair number of internal promotions and lateral moves, and it's all of those, and all of those positions then need to be backfilled. And then there are some roles that we've needed to hire multiple people for the same job, and sometimes that can look to those out with the organisation like we're unable to keep our talented people, when in actual fact it's just that we need more of them. So how have we gone about addressing some of these challenges? Well, the first and most obvious one is that we make a real effort to look after our existing team, so we can keep our attrition levels at an absolute minimum. And we've done that by offering a market-leading benefits package that includes generous holiday allowance and pension contributions. We also offer flexible working opportunities from day one of employment, so we don't have a minimum qualifying period. And we've created a positive culture that embodies trust and autonomy. We do regular staff consultation, and we do that in lots of different ways. So we have weekly all-staff calls, quarterly all-staff conferences, a very vocal and active staff consultation forum, a health and safety committee, and a really open door policy with the entire leadership team, and that absolutely includes the CEO. We truly believe in learning and development opportunities and offer individual role-specific training as well as generous budgets for individuals' personal development. And we also offer relocation packages where possible to attract talent to the area. In addition to looking after our existing team, we've created a dedicated career site, and that includes real video testimonials from members of the team. There's also guidance on writing a good application, as well as assistance in preparing for interview. And we've taken the development of our employer brand really seriously. We treat everyone as we would want to be treated ourselves. And that means we don't use the standard thanks but no thanks response to candidates after they've attended an interview. Instead, we pick up the telephone, we give them constructive, helpful feedback if they've been unsuccessful, so that they can build upon it and learn for the future. We also keep to really strict timescales and are upfront about what and when we're going to communicate. We want every single individual that's interested in working for us to have a positive experience, regardless of the outcome of their application. And then we have our various accreditations, the most obvious of which is, of course, being an SCQF inclusive recruiter. But we've also signed up to the Young Persons Guarantee. We're a Living Wage Foundation accredited employer, and we're also a disability confident employer. So that means that anyone who tells us that they're disabled and who meets the minimum criteria required to perform the role will be granted an interview, regardless of the strength of the rest of the field of applications. And then lastly, we've tried to create representative job titles that are less public sector focused. I have to admit that that's still very much a work in progress, but we are getting there slowly but surely. So moving on from the experiences that we have had at SOCI, I thought it worthwhile talking about the skills shortage and talent attraction challenges that our clients are experiencing. Employers are now regularly reporting difficulties recruiting staff across the country, and that includes the South of Scotland region. The number of vacancies being posted increased sharply as lockdown restrictions were eased, and they've stayed at that high level. In the South of Scotland, job postings have been particularly strong in healthcare, hospitality, food and tourism, sales and construction. And experts attribute most of the issues to a reduced labour pool as a result of losing EU workers over the past year, combined with long-standing demographic and skills shortages in the area. As a region, there are still relatively high numbers of job seekers. And ordinarily, we would expect employers to be finding recruitment relatively easy, but that's just not the case. And this appears to be a situation which is replicated countrywide. So why are we experiencing the current mismatch? Well, many commentators have described it as a perfect storm. And explanations around the labour and skills shortages are multiple and include things like the reduced numbers of EU workers, which has narrowed the pools of available talent. We've also seen workers voting with their feet and rejecting sectors and jobs with lower pay or poor terms and conditions, or even just the perception of such. Additionally, more young people have stayed on at school or college as a result of the uncertainty brought by COVID. And then, of course, there's COVID hesitancy. Some residents have struggled to adjust to a rapidly changing situation. We've also received anecdotal feedback that some young people are reluctant to go back to normal life now that restrictions have eased. And many people with health issues will understandably be cautious about re-engaging with face-to-face activities and employment. And then we have the many older workers who've decided to take retirement or partial retirement earlier than they would have thought previously. And a number of employers have reported to us that many within the labour pool are just not all ready for work, and others have health issues or caring responsibilities. And in many cases, individual circumstances are creating barriers for people who are trying to find work. So while this clearly current and pressing problem with shortages of labour, the South of Scotland is an area with long-standing challenges around talent attraction and retention. And these issues are complex and relate to wider issues such as the provision and availability of affordable housing, the underdeveloped transport infrastructure, a lack of reliable digital connectivity in many areas, amongst other things. So what have we here at SOCI done to try and help address the challenges that the businesses and organisations that we work with are experiencing? We've recently developed a programme which is aimed at helping businesses and organisations in the south of Scotland who are having difficulties filling their job vacancies. This programme is going to be run by a local HR consultancy and will aim to make organisations and businesses more attractive to job seekers, doing things like assisting them to design and place optimised job postings and really sell with the opportunity and the organisation. It's going to be available to South of Scotland businesses and organisations and is being taken forward by us at SOCI alongside partners in the South of Scotland Labour Shortages Working Group, which includes representatives from Skills Development Scotland and the 2 councils and the 2 colleges. We've also been working with a number of different partners to create a South of Scotland specific jobs hub, and the plan is to link that to other areas of information that anyone not from the area might be interested in, such as housing, education provision, access to services. And this is still very much in the initial stages, but will be coming up in the future. And we've been promoting fair work practices by adding in conditionality elements to our grant funding and procurement processes. We've been working with a number of smaller organisations to create a shared apprenticeship programme, which is aimed at those organisations which wouldn't be able to commit to taking on a modern apprentice full-time, but that would be interested in sharing the resource with other organisations, and that's going to be launching over the next few weeks. We also have teams of client-facing staff who work with the organisations across the region to help them access relevant help, training, information, and in many cases funding. We've played an active part on real living wage action groups, and we've been working with various partner organisations like Skills Development Scotland, Scottish Enterprise, Scottish Government, the councils, the NHS, to make sure we're working together to highlight all the benefits and opportunities that exist in the region. So I was asked a couple of why SOCI became accredited as an SCQF inclusive recruiter. Well, my challenge back to anyone would be, why would any organisation not become an SCQF inclusive recruiter? The times of snobbery around which university you went to or what type of qualification you hold are long gone. Successful organisations are the ones that can attract and retain the right people with the right skills at the right time. They're no longer solely made up of Oxford and Cambridge graduates. And research tells us that it's the organisations which embrace the immeasurable advantages of having a diverse talent pool that are the most successful. So for us at SOCI, the benefits of having a diverse range of talent include things like enhanced creativity and innovation, intensified problem solving, a greater range of lived experience, and that means we can be more representative of the region and the people we're here to serve. And it means we're far more likely to be able to affect change which genuinely benefits the people and the organisations based in the south of Scotland. There's also research that tells us that our team will report higher levels of job satisfaction, will be able to experience lower staff turnover, will be more productive, and will demonstrate higher levels of staff morale. So lastly, I was asked to talk about the differences that being an SCQF inclusive recruiter accredited organisation, my goodness, that's a mouthful, however many times I've said it. And I have to be honest and say that because SOCI was only established on the 1st of April 2020, and because we embraced the use of the SCQF framework from day one, that we haven't seen any change because it's always been an integral part of our talent attraction strategy. However, what I can say is that we've had no unsolvable challenges with our talent attraction, and we're really proud of the diverse, inclusive and talented organisation which we've built in a very short period of time. And we feel confident that this puts us on the right footing to effect real positive change for the communities, businesses and other organisations in the south of Scotland. And with that, I will close. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Okay, that's great, and your details are up there. Your signal was kind of coming and going, but we did manage to hear it. No, it's okay. We heard it all. Just some of it went a wee bit slow for a while, but you caught up. So you sounded a bit odd. I suppose that's all I'm saying. Sure, okay.
Well.
I had a couple of things then just to pick up there. Representative job titles you're trying to phase out. Can you give me an example? What do you mean by that?
So interestingly, a lot of our staff are client facing. So they're kind of business facing staff that work with businesses and communities across the south of Scotland. And the public sector kind of terminology for the people who do that is business development. Business development means sales for people in the real world. But that's not what we mean. We mean people who will work one-to-one with organisations to help them develop specialist skills, to help them really develop their business and move forward. And interestingly, I did an exercise just before Christmas when we were looking for business development advisors. And we were looking for advisors at the same time as looking for business coaches. But in effect, they are the same job. But the business coaches were focused on women's enterprise, youth enterprise, and innovation. The applications we got for the business coach roles were significantly better than the applications we got for the business advisor roles. Job descriptions really very, very similar. The same skills you need to do the job. But I think having that job title of business coach just made it more reflective of what actually that person will do in the role. And I think that really helped, because I think what can often happen is that people look at job boards and you scan them with your eyes. Nicola, you'll do it on a weekly basis, much as I do. You scan with your eyes, you look at job titles, but you don't go into the detail unless you see something that you want to see. And if you've got the right job title, then you're more likely to encourage people to go into the detail. And once they go into the detail, then they're more likely to apply for the role. So we find that's made a huge difference. We've still got a lot of job titles to change, and that's a slow progress. But slowly we will get there.
Well, that's good, and I think that works. I mean, for me, business development is just another word for a salesperson. I think you're right. They used to be called salespeople, and then it was changed to business development for some reason, and that kind of sticks. Okay, I'm conscious of the time here, so we do want to invite Nicola back to tell us. I very cheekily asked her to be quick this morning, so you've got a wee bit more time this time, Nicola, to tell us about the Know Your Level job tool. So over to you.
That's all right. I will be quick anyway, because we'll be back in the live stream soon. So I just wanted to pop back on and let you see a couple of tools that we've created to help people understand what SCQF level they are working at, just to help, as we were saying, change that the language around recruitment and looking for jobs. So we've created two tools that are very, very similar, and we'll look at the one for individuals. So support for individuals, and Know Your Level. And this tool is there for people who might want to find out what skills and experience they have, what level they're actually working at, using the employer leveling tool that we discussed earlier. So it asks, what qualifications do you hold? And if you're not sure, there's all the range of different publications that we have to help you find that out. So say we had hires, you could jump in at level 6 and have a look at a page which has the exact same information as the employer leveling tool, but it's here in a slightly easier to digest format and a web-based format. And this is the page that you could also link to from your job adverts if you wanted to make it even more clear to potential applicants. So it has all the information that we have there, and then you can read through. If you think, I think I'm maybe working at a higher level than that, you can click on higher level, and you can work your way up through the levels until you find one that you feel describes your level of working. You can then use this tool to help you describe your skills and experience to potential employers. So we're running a campaign at the moment in social media, helping people to understand what level they are working at. So we have a very similar one for employers, sorry, the Know Your Level tool, which asks what qualification were you considering requesting, and then it's the same process from then. And you can use that just in the same way as you would the employer leveling tool to decide what level your job role should be at, and then you can use it, you can link to those web pages. I think that's me.
That's great. Okay, well, maybe I should give it a go actually and just try and assess the level of my own job. Thing is, I might be disappointed. It might be quite low.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Who knows? Thank you. Who knows? Okay, we've only got a couple of minutes left. So do we have any final comments or questions for any of our three speakers this afternoon? Melissa, I see you're on camera, so that always kind of suggests that you want to say something. So SQA is a recruitive inclusive recruiter. I didn't get it right. Do you want to say anything about it, Melissa?
Just to ask Stuart if you're going to try and say that 3 times again there. No, I don't have anything to add, but just personally, I've found the presentations very interesting, actually. So thank you.
That's great. Okay, thank you. Anyone have anything else we want to finally ask before we just wind this up? Nope, everyone wants to get back to the live screen. Oh, sorry, Breda, you're there. I almost missed you there.
Just a quick point, Stuart. I really enjoyed the two presentations there, and just to say that I want to follow up with was it? No, it wasn't Neil. Was it? Was it Neil? Shona? What was it?
Yeah, Shona from South of Scotland.
Yeah, it's Neil,
from Scotland.
From Skills Recognition Scotland. I'd like to follow up with them, because we do have a lot of talent people that we work with who are going through the process, who have a lot of skills and experience, and I think it links in very well with what they're doing. So I will be following up. Thank you.
No, it's fine. Karen had planted a seed for us this morning.
Yeah,
so,
I think
yes,
my
I've got
colleague Karen spoke to you or contacted you this morning, Neil. So that's great. Yeah.
Happy to do that. Yep.
Well, thank you.
That's good. Excellent. Okay, in that case then, can I just thank all three speakers then? So thanks to Nicola, Neil and Shona, and thanks to you for taking part in the workshop. It's back to the live stream now. Have a good rest of the afternoon. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart.